Good evening and welcome to the August 30th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. Section 40 of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 allows for the continuation of remote meetings. As such, this meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference and is also being broadcast on cable channel 15 and streamed online by FCTV. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. I'd like to thank all our staff for the continued support to this commission and the applicants. We are missing one commissioner tonight. However, we have a quorum. We're moving forward. Just a reminder, for commenting, I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time so we don't trip over each other. Also, that all votes are done by roll call. When I call your name, please state your name and your vote, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat, the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. If you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I will call for public comment. When you are selected, you will be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct, and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Regarding RDAs, under a request for determination of applicability, the applicant is asking the Commission to determine if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw apply to their proposed project. A negative determination is that the provisions of the Act and/or the bylaw do not apply. Therefore, the project may proceed as proposed. However, a positive determination means that the provisions of the Act and/or the bylaw do in fact apply. Therefore, the project would require a notice of intent application. So as an applicant, you kind of want to hear a negative answer. For the benefit of anyone waiting for a particular hearing tonight, and so you're not waiting unnecessarily, the following hearings are expected to be continued. 39 Juniper Point Road and 43 Sharon Ann. So without further ado, first up, request for determination of applicability. First up, Thomas J. Scarduzio, 192 Meadow Neck Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to vista prune according to FWR 10.18, 10B. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Mr. Chairman, BSC group has their hand raised. I believe the representative would like to say something. I'm going to be promoting Karen Healy from the BSC group up to address the board. Where'd you go, Karen? Karen, I've promoted you to a panel. There we go. Karen, you're muted.
Good evening, everybody. I was unaware that it was read in by Alyssa. So at this moment, I don't have anything to say unless somebody has a question for me. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? All right.
I made a motion to
I'll second Gladfelter.
All right. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. There's no other questions or comments. We're voting. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Melissa.
Aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Next up, Saul J. Pennell, trustee, Highwater Realty Trust, 129 Penzance Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a second-story addition to an existing cottage. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move, and I have questions, but I'll wait till a second.
Patton second.
thank you. Question?
This is, clearly within the resource area, so why wouldn't you file a notice on this one? I mean, it's not just a floodplain.
Well, it's a second story, so the existing story already exists.
Which,
And go ahead.
which cottage is it? The one right, that is the garage as you come up just at the end of the seawall, or the other one attached to the end of the building?
Let me take a look. Emma went out to evaluate this. It's the one in the back corner of the property between the house and the pool.
Is it standalone or is it attached to the house?
It's not attached. There's just like patios and walkways connecting them.
Oh, okay, I know which one you mean.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you're right on the edge of the water. That's why I wondered why it wasn't a notice.
Jen,
I
do you
mean,
want to take
you're
that?
you're like, the back of the house is like right on a seawall.
In the buffer allowed like a small section, it's not a large second story addition.
It's like half the cottage.
Okay, I mean, as long as you're comfortable with it, I just was curious because, you know, a lot of times these things come up as floodplain issues. But this is right on the edge of the water. That's why I asked.
No, I understand, Courtney. I'm comfortable with it.
Okay. I happen to be familiar with this property because I once owned it, so I know every inch of it.
No, I
Alright.
bet. It's a beautiful
you.
piece of property.
Yep.
Did they have an engineer analyze the foundation? Evaluate?
We
They
have a
did.
letter
Okay.
from, I believe, an architect. Yes, an architect sent in the letter.
Thank you. All right, any other questions or comments? Melissa?
Are they going to restore the vegetation that's around the cottage once they finish
Yeah, like the
project?
landscape plantings?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, it said that
Yep.
the construction fences going along the existing vegetation, so they're not going to touch the natural vegetation.
No, yeah, so the limit of work's going right along the buffer. So
Okay.
none of that vegetation will be touched. The ornamental plantings around the home, unsure if those are
Okay,
disturbed, those will be replanted.
okay, thanks.
All right, everybody good? All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Melissa,
Frog aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Gary Moskowitz, 177 Coonamessett Circle, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to vista prune according to FWR 10.18, 10B.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Frog second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? All right, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Melissa,
Frog aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Michelle T. Klein, 12 Fresh River Lane, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct a step and deck in the same footprint. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Frog second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Steve.
Frog
Patton, aye.
Thank you. Melissa, you can only vote once.
You asked me twice.
Maybe I stuttered. I don't know. I'm getting old. All right. Requests for hearing under notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. And as a reminder, public commenting is limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, Scott and Susan Goodrich, the Goodrich Family Trust, 61 Walker Street, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise, R-A-Z-E, and rebuild an existing accessory structure, remove an unpermitted basketball court, and install mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted Tom Bunker up to present his project.
Mr. Bunker, you're up, sir.
Yes, thank you. For the record, my name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design. Prepared the plan I'm about to show you, so if I may, I will show you. Share the screen.
Absolutely.
Thank you. This property is on Walker Street. It actually fronts also on Glenwood Ave, so it's sort of in the side yard of Town Hall. You could have been over there, look at it easily. And there is an existing small accessory structure in this location here, and we propose to rebuild it in a slightly better location. I'll first point out that the resource areas, this lot is all except for the frontage on Walker Street in flood zone AE elevation 12. So the bottom of the house here and the backyard and where this house is going is at elevation, there's in flood zone 12. The ground goes down to elevation 6 here and then slopes a little lower. There is a wetland on the neighbor's property, which LEC flagged in this location over here. And so we have a 25-foot zone A here. I think it's 25. I call it a 50-foot zone A, sorry. Around the wetland, which encompasses the entire site of the existing and proposed accessory structure. There is currently in this location a basketball, like a half-court basketball place right here, where the hoop is over here, and there's a backstop wall here and a light over it. That was not permitted, and it will be removed. So that there is still mitigation required for it. The accessory structure will be built. It's a little bit smaller, larger rather, and there's there we go. The change is 51 square feet more of structure in the A zone and a stone step right here. It's another 24 square feet. So we have a total of 75 square foot increase in coverage in zone A, and tiny corner right here, 6 square feet in zone B. So we have 230 square feet, 237 square feet of mitigation as it was filed. And that mitigation is here up to this line, whereas had 238 square feet, which required 27 to 31 shrubs. But in the staff report, they pointed out 2 things, and one, there was a little shed that we showed here. This is actually a trash can enclosure, which they want to keep. That's 23 square feet. And it's in the zone A of the coastal bank right here, that being in a steeper than 10% in a flood zone. So we have the shed in the coastal banks. We've added 69 square feet more in this location, adjacent to the other mitigation planting to offset the shed that will remain in the front yard out of the flood zone. And it was pointed out this pea stone area here is was not approved, and that is labeled as to be removed. So that'll come out. The shed will stay. More mitigation will go in. So we'll end up with all lawn here. Downspouts will go into it's a shallow leaching area here, and another one here for the roof runoff. So that's it. I'll stop the share and take any questions.
Excellent. Thanks, Tom. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. As you can see, Tom's plan is a little different. He explained, Alyssa and I felt the change was small enough today that he could proceed tonight. I think Tom has addressed all of our questions and concerns, so thank you. And I have nothing else to add, Mr. Chairman.
All righty. Ms. Bergeron.
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments. Betsy.
Thanks, Tom. That was clear and concise.
Yep.
Courtney.
As a result, I have no comments.
All righty. I'll give you 3 for 3. Kevin.
Same for me. Thank you.
All right. Melissa.
Oh, I'm gonna break the streak here. Thank you, Tom. Quick question. In the B zone, there's a gravel sort of stoop off a back door to sort of on the opposite corner of the house in the Peastone patio. Is that also, has that been mitigated for? Do we know?
I don't know how old it is. It's like the other one. I didn't look back to see everything. I mean, that's I don't know.
It's just a little gravel stoop. I think be mindful of that. And then there also seemed to be some kind of sort of big sort of brush pile in the back there by the accessory building. I guess that will no longer happen, I guess, once the new accessory building's in. Because it's between the accessory building and the wetland right now. So I think there's like some a fence. It looks like some fence parts or some is it lattice work? It's sort of haphazardly thrown in back there, and I mean, will it all be cleaned up afterwards after the building?
Certainly when they're doing the work, they'll have to clean it up. I'm sorry. You're probably my computer froze, so I didn't hear all of what you said, but the last bit I did, all that will be cleaned up. Okay. I mean, they'll have to clean it up to make room to work in there. Yes.
Yeah, because there's like some. Did you hear the bit about the what's it called? The fencing, the lattice work fencing. There's sort of some haphazard pieces back there that they look like fencing, but they're not fencing. I don't think there is fencing back there, though. I don't know whose property it's on. It might be the property.
It's close. It's only 8 feet from the property line, so I think they'll have to clear it all out right to the property line, just to have room to work. And
okay.
I'll stake the property line so I make sure of where they are.
Yeah, and then while I was back there, I had flashbacks of being on the historical commission, and there's a wonderful marking stone on the back. I guess it's the northeast corner of the outbuilding that's there. Is that an old hitching post, or is it a property marker, or is it's sort of it sort of looks like a mini. It's a hip high Washington monument type thing, and it's definitely ancient or antique. It's right on the A line, right on the corner of, the back corner of the original building, of the standing building.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's should try to keep that, because I bet if you're going to the historical commission with this too, they'd probably like you to keep that. It's
I
it's a really
don't
cool.
believe.
Okay, but it looks like it's a property marker of some sort, or an ancient property marker. So you might want to find out what that thing is before it goes away, if it can go away. But yeah, nice project. I'm glad that the basketball court's being removed. Okay, that's it.
All right. Steve.
No comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Not for this project, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Betsy?
Is there a limit of work on the plan, Tom? Is Tom frozen? Did you hear you guys heard my question, right?
Tom is,
Yeah, I think, isn't it down on the western property line?
Well, I don't see anything labeled. Tom,
Yeah,
are
it's
you with
not-
me?
No, my computer froze and cut out, and I just came back in, so I hadn't heard what was going on.
limit of
Okay.
work, Tom.
Is there a limit of work on the plan?
Yes, it's not shown as a hay bale line, but there's a line with there's a kind of a heavy line with lines across it, like a railroad track symbol.
Like a railroad track?
Yeah,
Oh, but it's not labeled.
It's under the legend, Betsy.
should be in the legend, yeah.
Okay, thanks. That's all.
All right. Anything else? All right. What are you thinking?
I'll move to
Got
close.
two
the
more
hearing,
questions.
take Under account, under advisement.
Well, I'll second, but I think Melissa has a question.
Hold on. Melissa?
Yeah, another question about the limit of work on the other side. How far is it going? All the way to the property line? And is it going to be what do you call it? Rolls, straw rolls, or silt fence, or what? Because you're awfully close to that wonderful little wetland.
It was just, in my mind, it was just, you can condition something if you want. In my mind, it was just to be the silt fence. It takes up very little space on the land.
Yeah,
Melissa, if I may, we
Yeah.
condition it that it needs to be straw bales and silt fencing unless otherwise approved in writing by staff. So
Okay.
sometimes we will approve a silt fencing with a wattle. Sometimes just silt fencing alone. It really depends on the grades of the property and how close the excavation is. So we can evaluate that when we get the building permit and go out and look. It's right behind us, so
Yeah, I realize that. Okay, thanks so much, Jen.
not a problem.
Anything else? Going once, going twice? All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's nothing else, we'll vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bert, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Melissa,
Freitag, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Next up, Alan D. Curtel. The Golston Family Irrevocable Trust, 43 Sharon Ann Lane, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install a leaching galley, construct a pool, spa, patio, and retaining walls, and to install mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant has requested a continuance until September 27th to address the staff's concerns in the staff report.
So moved, Gladfelter.
Bird, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until 9:27. Any questions or comments? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Melissa,
Freitag, aye.
Steve.
Patton, I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this hearing until 9:27. Brings us to Andrew J. and Joanne B. Whitus, 39 Juniper Point Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a deck and spa, patio, walkways, and retaining wall to reconfigure an existing driveway and to install mitigation plantings. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant's representative has requested continuance until September 27th. Again, to address staff's concerns in the staff report.
Bird,
So,
so,
so move Gladfelter.
Bird second.
all right, nothing like a little friendly competition. All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until 9:27. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting on a continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Melissa,
Freitag, aye.
Steve.
Patton, I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this hearing until 9:27. Next up are continued requests for a hearing under notice of intent. First up, True Compass LLC, 179 BB Acres Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise RAZE an existing single-family dwelling, construct a new single-family dwelling with associated garage, patio, and deck, and to install restoration plantings. And for the record, Melissa is not on this quorum. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted Mark Dibb up from Cape and Islands Engineering to present his continued project. Evening, Mark.
Good evening, Mark. Mark Dibb with Cape and Islands Engineering, represent the applicant True Compass LLC for 179 BB Acres Road. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
So this is a continued hearing for a raise and replace project we had presented. At the previous hearing, it was noted that this shed in this area did not appear to be legally permitted. We were already proposing to remove it. However, the area itself was essentially identified as existing and existing cover for mitigation calculations. When we took that area out of those calculations, it did actually trigger mitigation being required, basically, and a net positive amount of work in the A zone, triggering 207 square feet of mitigation, which we have added to the plan in the close proximity to the resource areas in the A zone, and this is the green area. Another minor comment that I failed to actually address was I had this arrow pointing off into an area. It just needed to be, it was a typo, basically just needed to identify the work limit properly. The work limit did not change, but the arrowhead itself is just pointing to the appropriate work limit. And then we had discussed the trees and different things at that time at the previous hearing. At this point, there were no further changes to this plan, and I'll give it back to the commission for any questions or comments.
Thanks, Mark. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the only comment I have is about the trees. I think there was discussion at the last hearing that once the building comes down and the new structure goes up, that the staff will evaluate the number of trees that should be replaced, because it is a pretty heavily wooded lot back there, so. But the board can discuss that in deliberations, and other than that, I have no other additional comments.
All right. Ms. Bergeron.
I have no comments. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments. Courtney.
No comments.
All right. I remember that discussion about the trees. I agree. So I like that they're on the plan, but
Correct.
I also think it's smart to evaluate it on site. Kevin.
No comments at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Steve.
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Betsy.
No comments. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Mark.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat comment, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
I'll make a motion to close this hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll vote. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous with this quorum. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Dibb.
Thank you.
Next up, Constance M. Ryan and Andrew Doyle, 151 T-Ticket Path, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to extend the existing revetment, construct access stairs and nourish the bank. Jen,
Oop.
are we ready for this?
Yes, we are. I'm getting Ms. Ricks right now. So I am promoting Catherine Ricks from Coastal Engineering to present the project. We met with Catherine out in the field the other day to go over the revised plan.
Hi, Catherine Ricks. Good evening. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, but
Please?
hold on a second.
Yep.
Melissa, if you can hear me, you're back in the quorum. Okay, thank you.
Hi.
Okay.
We're good. Thank you.
Okay.
Actually, Ginny, I do have a question though, because I was not here the last time that this was in front of the board. I was on the first day, but not the second day.
Mr.
Definition.
Chairman, if I may, I don't really think much was discussed at the last hearing, and I think if Melissa just reviews the August 2nd hearing, we can be covered under the Mullen Rule.
Okay. You were at the August 2nd hearing, correct?
No, I was
Melissa?
not. I was at the one last year.
That was one, I'm sorry, that's the one you weren't, okay.
Yeah, the August 2nd, I was not at. I was at the initial one back in
All right.
August 2022.
So can
If
you
you don't-
review
if
that
you don't have
hearing or not?
I can review that hearing. Yeah, that would be
Okay.
fine. If
And we're
the
covered.
applicants have no problem.
No, I don't. I think a lot of what was said in the last one will be repeated in this hearing.
Okay, great.
It's not a problem.
All right.
Okay. Would you like me to present?
Yeah, Catherine, you're
Okay.
good, thanks.
Okay, so we have the proposed rock revetment extension, and there is going to be granite stairs, and we have added fiber rolls at the end of the extension, shortened the extension, added fiber rolls, and some regrading. So this is the existing conditions with the scarped area at the end of the existing revetment. Our proposed project will slightly extend the revetment so that it's going to capture most of that wave reflection off the existing revetment and have the waves more go along the shoreline instead of into the bank, causing additional erosion. At the end of that extension, we have added fiber rolls to get some of the additional wave reflection off of the revetment, and then into a regrading area that will be some slight fill and regrading of a scarped area to stabilize the bank slightly more. In that area on top of the bank, there are trees, and this was one of the items that was brought up on site. We don't plan to remove any of the stable trees. The plan is to remove only those that have been undermined and are somewhat have the root ball hanging or the roots hanging off the edge at this point. This will also include removing the lower split rail fence and concrete wall, which is on the applicant's property per they have deeded rights to the center line of that Keep Chipham Way. And also during construction, removing the upper split rail fence, but then putting that back in because that really gives you the end of the way and it's there for safety. We have cross sections of the proposed revetment extension and cross section of the fiber rolls to be included with the sand nourishment over the fiber rolls. And for fiber rolls, we recommend at least a 6-inch minimum sand cover at all times after any sand is washed off to keep them covered so that they're not exposed to the UV light. And these were some pictures that were back in March. This is the concrete wall and the lower split rail and upper split rail fences. As you can see, the concrete wall is deteriorating slightly up the toe. There's some rocks in there, and then there's a somewhat of a put together stairway that the applicants would like to have removed as they feel it's a safety hazard. And then this is showing the eroded bank back there where we would put the extension of the revetment fiber rolls and then regrading that bank that has, you can see on the top, has undermined at the top of the bank and just putting it more of a stable slope. And this is from the other viewpoint looking the other way. And I know that there was questions about the nourishment. In this area, Massachusetts Shoreline Change Browser does not have an erosion rate or a shoreline change rate. So the thought is to do at construction have 6-inch cover over the revetment extension, continuous 6-inch cover over the fiber rolls. So that would be approximately, I think I calculated about 7 cubic yards annually for a nourishment there. And then at construction, when they're regrading that bank, approximately 70 cubic yards of fill potentially, so that we don't remove those trees that are stable up on the bank and fill the bank along where it would go from revetment, fiber rolls, and then a stable slope. But after that, it really would depend on how much of that erodes for them to be able to put some in. So I would say if they could annually have a nourishment value of around 7 to 8 cubic yards with the ability to put additional cubic yardage in that area to keep a stable slope. And that's if there's any questions, I'll stop sharing, but if there's any questions.
Thank you. Jen?
You're welcome.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Catherine, I don't think we talked about the nourishment in the field.
Yeah.
The only concern I would have is we are having a problem over at the mouth of Perch Pond. So I think we'll have to evaluate the nourishment on an annual basis.
Okay.
We're looking at all the systems in these finger ponds with the core fiber roll systems, and we know the need to re-nourishment if they're exposed. We're just going to be tightening our review of those projects and the annual nourishment that goes along with them.
Okay, that makes
So it's
sense.
not impacting one resource versus
While
the other.
covering
So,
the shoaling
yeah,
in the other.
yeah.
Understood.
Correct. All right, thank you. That's my only comments, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Ms. Bergeron?
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments. Kevin?
No comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Melissa?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Jen actually started my my thread of thought. Jen, is Perch Pond the one to the west?
Yes.
Okay, because I was wondering what direction the sediment flow was going in from there, because I'm wondering, you know, if they extend the revetment, I mean, there is some nice sand, I mean, what happens to the sediment that's being fed into the neighbors, onto the neighbor's beach? Is this revetment going to suck in the sand or the sediment, and then not allow the sediment to continue flowing to the neighbor's beach, so that they'll end up having a problem with rocky beach and more erosion?
So
That's a
this area
question.
being where this, oh, through the chair, sorry, can I respond to that?
Go ahead. Yep.
Okay, so being that this is kind of just directly at the top of
Mhm.
one of those fingers, there's really no consistent way that the sediment is flowing. So the thought is that sometimes it'll probably just go right back into the water system, and at times it may flow to either side. But if we were to cover the fiber rolls and keep the nourishment and I agree with Jen, if we could annually look at that and see where it's going, then maybe we could tell if we needed more or less in that area, but I don't think it's going to really hold in the sediment or stop any of the sediment from flowing over to that beach there. That was the concern.
Well, that is kind of the concern, because we all know that revetments retain the sediment and that they actually end up chewing away at beaches. And so, you know, the revetment that they have right now has ended, and they're having problems just beyond the end of the revetment. And so what's to stop? I don't understand what's going to keep there being a problem. What's going to keep there being a problem from the end of this revetment and not just passing it on to the neighbors? I mean, I really hesitate to do these revetments. I'd like to hear. I mean, are you just going to keep putting sand on the beach every year then? You know,
Yes, there
is
can
that
be an
it?
annual nourishment on this. They especially would want to keep the fiber rolls covered, because the UV light will break down the fiber quicker
So-
than
So I guess.
Yep.
So I guess then my question is, why not just renourish the beach all the time instead of building the revetment wall?
In a storm, the revetment and the fiber rolls will slow the erosion, so it doesn't just occur and hit the whole bank at one time during a storm. And then you have time to go and renourish over there instead of losing all the more bank. This will help support the bank where it is and also give you time then to put more sediment over.
And will it jeopardize the neighbors' properties more? They have more revetment.
So what I've seen over the years of doing revetments, your area of the wave reflection is typically 5 to 10 feet from the end of the revetment. So in this case, we now have 20 feet of fiber rolls, and then we also have an additional 20 feet of just a stabilized bank. So we're hoping with that, we're not transferring any onto the neighboring property.
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, no more questions.
All right. Steve.
Thank you. Catherine, thank you for this considerable improvement from the prior presentations and your explanation. I really enjoyed it. I think this could work. It's an interesting area. But hopefully with the town's assistance on some other areas, we can really do a great job with this pond. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Betsy.
Yeah, Catherine, as you know, this is a particularly challenging area because it's at the head of, if there's a surge coming up, and that's going to be, so it's just, I think it's just trying to protect that bank as long as possible, and the vegetation that's growing up on it. So yeah, it's like Steve said, like all of these projects, we hope this will work. And yeah, we see where you're going. And this was a nice, much clearer than the last time you were here.
Yes.
All right, Courtney.
Are you vegetating the sand overlay over the fiber core with things like beach grass and stuff like that? I didn't notice.
We didn't include it at this time, but we can definitely do that. I would suggest that we would just do it. I have to look at what the FEMA flood line is with the base flood elevation. I typically don't try to vegetate below that, try to start above that and have the vegetation naturally grow down into the rest of it. So we could start at the top of the bank and put natural vegetation. We would revegetate the top of the bank anywhere that it's disturbed, but not as much down the face of it. We'd hope it naturally will work its way down, which we've seen in some of the different nourishment areas that we've worked on. They grow
Okay.
deeper roots and start growing down the bank, and it's more stable than when they initially put the vegetation in.
That was my concern. If you do the beach grass, you're gonna help to hold that sand along with the fiber core. Okay, no other questions.
Thank you. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Third, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Melissa,
Freitag, aye.
Steve,
And
it is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Cobalt Partners LLC, 23 Spencer Baird Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise, R-A-Z-E, an existing single-family dwelling, construct a new single-family dwelling with a deck and rinse station, and install mitigation plantings. And I have that Courtney and Kevin are not on this quorum. So you guys have to go to timeout.
Oh dear.
Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, oh, hello, Mark. It's like I didn't see you. I am Mark Davis here from Cape and Islands again, and I have promoted Dan Selena to present their continued project.
Mr. Dib, you're up, sir.
Hi, good evening, Mark. If you didn't see me, you hadn't demoted me back down.
Oh, sorry, Mark.
But I was being quiet and
You were a keeper.
So again, Mark Dib with Cape and Islands, representing the applicant for 23 Spencer Baird Road. This is an amended order request for this raise and replace project that had been approved previously. And the amendment request was to implement some landscape architect features and mitigate in the required mitigation to go along with those. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
So this is also a continued hearing on the amendment request. If you recall, we discussed the plantings, and this is our plan. There is a planting plan, which I can review quickly. But we had an area of fence. If you recall, the property line comes along here and loops around. We were proposing to remove the existing post and rail fence that was already in the right of way and replace it with a new fence that was closer to the property, but still within the right of way. And then we also had, you'll see on the planting plan, just some plantings along the property line and to infill this area and to bring the utilities through. So there's a question about work in the right of way. We have presented this to the selectmen for a license for that work. They essentially said they could issue a license once the commission, your commission, approved the project. So the ball is back in your court, I guess. And so I'll just finish the presentation and I can open it up to any questions. So basically what they're saying is, as long as you vote to allow the amendment because it meets your regulations and performance standards of the Wetland Protection Act, then they would be able to
Chris?
they would be able to issue that license. So that's essentially the main bulk of why we were continued to address that licensing issue. There was a comment in the latest staff report regarding the limit of work. I can show you the planting plan as well. This red limit of work is what we are proposing for limit of work. It encompasses removing the existing post and rail fence, gives some room to remove this row of shrubs, and then it's also pulled in around this brush line. I'm just going to quickly show you the planting plans, and then we'll give it back for any additional questions. So this is the landscape architect planting plan that we had presented. It includes the mitigation at this end, preserving these trees, and some planting infill of that. This fence is being removed and the lawn is being removed, pulled back to this inner area with some plantings. And so that, that's the basics behind the presentation. The significant thing was seeking approval from the selectmen, and we do have correspondence requesting that we go back to you to make sure you allow these changes under the Wetlands Protection Act. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mark. Ben.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any questions from Mark. I think one of my concerns was just the choice of the low bush blueberry in this area. I'm kind of wondering why, Dan, you chose 105 low bush blueberry. I don't really think having anything a little bit more substantial will affect the view, since the view is to the north.
Right.
So can you explain that choice to me?
Right. I mean, oftentimes, of course, landscape architects, other than me, of course, aim to load the buffer with low bush blueberry, so that the view isn't obstructed. Of course, that's not an issue here. I was really just trying to develop a buffer plan that was diverse in terms of plant types and plant heights. I recently planted 600 low bush blueberries at my house, and the landscape absolutely came alive, with bird life and chipmunks and things that didn't exist here before. So anyway, I guess it was maybe again, not at all associated with views, really just a matter of trying to create a multi-level, buffer plan. Of course, if you preferred, that the low bush blueberry be substituted with another native plant, we're happy to accommodate you.
Okay, thank you. We can discuss it. The board can discuss it during deliberations, and we can offer you some alternatives if the board does not want the 105 low bush blueberry. And Dan, did you correct your plan because the limits of work on the two plans didn't match? I think I saw an email from you that you corrected your plan.
I think Mark revised his.
Yeah.
I think they were coordinated, but if they're not, I haven't seen Mark's since he corrected his, so I can correct mine if they're out of sync. But I think they're quite close.
Okay. Because one of them had it right on. Had it right on the property line, and Mark's was, or Cape and Islands was inland. So one of them will have to be changed. You can coordinate on which one you want changed.
Very good.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Ms. Bergeron.
No comments. Thank you.
Mr.
All right.
Chairman, I do have one question. I know there is an abutter concern. The area in the corner of like where Spencer Baird Road and Gosnell Road meet, that little vegetated area, that's the town property. We're putting the electrical line in, and that's gonna remain open, and there is an existing path that goes from Spencer Baird to Gosnell Road. Is that gonna remain open? It's shown on both plans.
Yeah, I think the intent is to maintain the existing path that goes north-south
Correct.
through the brush,
Okay.
and for this property to connect to that path through the gate
Okay.
that's on the western edge of the property.
Okay, so it is going to remain open between Spencer Baird and
Yes.
Gosnell. Okay. Thank
Yes.
you.
Anything else?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Commissioner comments, Melissa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, this is an improvement, but I still have lots of questions. And my first question actually has to do with the fence. I guess this is for Mark, this question. I'm looking at that plan first. You have on here existing post and rail fence to be removed, but I mean, that's the town's fence. So, you have permission to remove that historical fence from the town? I mean, I know you said that if we say that things can happen, that it will happen, but I think that's up to the Board of Selectmen to give you permission to do.
Correct,
else?
yes, that was on the license plan that we submitted, you know, it was installed by this property. And yes, that is something they will grant permission to remove if the commission grants permission, you know, regarding Wetlands
Yeah.
Protection Act regulations that they
Yeah,
deem it okay to remove.
Because it seems to be a historical fence, and I know that Woods Hole is a pretty historical neighborhood, and of course that historical house just came down. That might be something to reconsider. And then I know that you called them existing unlicensed shrubs to be removed, but the first time you folks were here, we had asked you the ones along was that Gosnold? I guess it's Gosnold. Now you're suggesting that we pull them out so that you can put in hydrangeas?
Well, I can speak to that. So no, they're not really in the way of the hydrangeas. The hydrangea hedge is on the property line. These are in the road layout. Yeah, I mean it's a quirky, planting by I presume a former property owner, where they created a ridge, so kind of a ridge-shaped mound, and planted it with euonymus.
Mhm.
Okay, euonymus are invasive, plants for one. So they're not really, great to have, in the area. And secondly, they're half dead. If you looked at them today, the whole seaward side of them is dead. So they're really, kind of unsightly, and we thought we could do better. So again, the quirkiness, the invasiveness, the disease condition, we thought they should come out.
So I did look at them yesterday, and I looked at the whole site, and actually that silt fence and the wattles, it's absolutely it's catastrophic over there at the building site. So Jen and Alyssa might want to say something to Newton, CH Newton. They really need to fix that thing. It's absolutely disastrous, especially on Gosnold Road, but both sides. It's gone, and the trailer is still on town property. So I'm hoping that that it gets cleaned up now. I'm concerned about all these hydrangeas going in though. It doesn't strike me as being wise to remove things that are well rooted so close to the edge of the dune, to put in, what is it, 30 of them, 20 of them? How many? Oh, 18 of them that are going to take a long time to grow. I mean, this is on the living with water property. This property is going to be living with water by 2030. So how well are those hydrangeas going to thrive in 6 years with a couple of moon tides coming in and hitting them? Question, because
Well-
these other things are still there, so they're not dead. They're not completely dead yet. The euonymus isn't dead yet, and the hydrangea.
Not sure,
How are they
Mr.
going to do?
Chairman, I'm not sure what question I should respond to there. As far as hydrangeas goes, they aren't considered, it's an ornamental hedge, essentially.
Mhm.
The mitigation is being addressed, elsewhere. I think in a very effective way. And in fact, I think overall, we're planting over 2,000 square feet of native plants on this property, where we have only 536 or 530 square feet of required mitigation. So we're planting 1,500 additional square feet of native, vegetation. So along that edge, we wanted to establish a hedge that was attractive to, as the owners are essentially going to occupy their house primarily on the north, side overlooking, Buzzards Bay. And so our aim was to choose a plant that had good height, that would screen the street and the traffic and the pedestrian activity, which is pretty active through the summer, and at the same time be beautiful. I think also, this plan, includes some really, significant, contributions to the native, planting scene. Not only our mitigation, but where we're planting, where we've removed fence along the west side. We're planting 640 square feet of native plants, none of which is considered mitigation, is simply what we think is the right thing to do. We're trying to strike a balance here between, native vegetation and creating effective native conditions, while at the same time, providing the owner with some of the delights of summer.
Okay, well, I appreciate the beach plum going in on the town property that has been lawned over by the prior owners. But yeah, that's not quite, let's not rest on our laurels quite yet there. I'm wondering if yeah, okay, I'm hesitant. Okay, thanks. Enough questions about the landscaping. Another question for Mark, though. Mark, you folks are still asking to cut through, I just dropped this plan, to cut through the town property to do underground wires from a pole on Gosnell Road. Are you still asking to do that then?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so again, why cut through town already well vegetated land to put wires underground, as opposed to just connecting the house to the pole on Spencer Baird that's already there, and not have to dig up more town property and replace more vegetation?
It's just from the utility company, it was the preferred route. It's avoiding going under a dirt road as well in that area, coming across Spencer Baird. Anytime you can not come from the other side of a roadway, we try to do that. But yes, it was requested at the selectmen meeting to make that connection, come that route, and it's an underground utility. But yes, we still are proposing to come in from that direction.
Yeah, if I could, I'd like to add to Mark's comment there, if I could, simply because I've had recent conversation with the builder about this. Under Spencer Baird is a major sewer line. Sewer line comes across this property, in the form of an easement, and then turns down, Spencer Baird Road. So going underground, under Spencer Baird with power is a complicated, endeavor. And so this question really isn't one that is dictated by the builder, by the owner, by the civil engineers or landscape architects. the utility company has, directed, the power connection to be as it is shown. So, I guess we would have to take it up with the power company, but also confront, the fact that there's a major sewer line, under Spencer Baird that, under which we would have to go under, to bring power across.
So the utility company is actually demanding that you put this power line underground?
They engineer it. They engineer the connections, and this is what they've directed us to do.
Okay. And you'll revegetate the spot where you run the power lines?
Oh, absolutely. We will be, revegetating all disturbed areas, in the road layout or anywhere else where we're disturbing landscape off our property.
With hydrangeas or with what?
No.
I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah, no, okay, not with hydrangeas. Okay. Thanks. That's it for now.
Steve,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can't add anything at the moment.
all right. Betsy. Betsy?
Yeah, I'm coming. I had
Oh,
to
all
unmute.
right.
Tell me I have to mute if I'm not addressed. Dan and Mark, thanks for incorporating all the changes from the last hearing. And I think when this is completed, it'll be a nice project. And if it were my choice, I'd rather have an underground line coming into my house. That's all, Jamie.
All right. I'll repeat the first part. I think the second iteration is much better. So thank you for the effort there. And I concur. Power should be underground. It should be underground everywhere. But Dan, I got to tell you, your argument was awful. I mean, you're saying
Sorry?
all the sewer and everything's underground. That's almost like working against what you're trying to achieve. Now,
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
You were saying it's better to be underground because all the sewer and stuff is already there. To me, that
No,
would
it's
be an
better
argument against.
No, I'm sorry. I meant that it's better not to cross Spencer Baird, where you would have to intersect, a sewer line.
Yeah.
It becomes a problematic crossing.
Only if you hit them both at the same time. All right, Jen, is there anything at the public chat function, please?
Yes, there is, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gellis would like to comment. So he did make a statement that Mr. Gellis, there's 2 of you logged in, so I'm going to promote both of you. He did make a statement that the utility company has already cut the trench for the electrical.
Really?
Mr. Gellis, I'm declined to be okay. He said he wanted to comment. Definitely would like to comment. Oh. Hang on, Mr. Chairman. Having a bit of an issue here. Where did Dan go?
Can you hear?
There he is. Okay.
You say the conduit's already in place?
That's what this gentleman said. Nope, he's declining to be promoted to a panelist. So, utility company cut the trench August 27th across Spencer Baird.
Mark, do you know anything about that?
I do not. I do know sometimes utility companies do whatever they want to do, but to the 27th would have been a couple days ago. So I guess that would be less, if they're successful and haven't broken anything, it would be less impact than what we have shown. But otherwise, I do not have an answer on that.
Okay.
Then
Mr.
wouldn't they
Chairman,
normally come to us for an RDA for that? Utility company? No?
Well, that would be outside your jurisdiction, I think,
this is well within our jurisdiction
on the Spencer Baird Road.
It's-
in the flood zone.
The flood zone.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
The utility company usually has its own schedule.
They cut from the electric pole on Spencer Baird. That is what, oh, he says he's not declining. Okay, Mr. Gellis, I'm going to attempt to promote you one more time. You're going to have to accept to become a panelist. Okay, he's joining now. Mr. Gellis, do you have, you'll need to turn your camera on and your microphone so you can address the board. There you are.
It said join as an attending, so I got confused.
It's okay, sir.
I'm Steve Gellis, and I've lived there for 67 years. Mr. Chairman, we sent a letter to you. I don't know if you received it. It's from 4 other families on Spencer Baird. Number one, I was there a week ago Monday. I put down the wrong date. They cut a trench. It was the electric company. It was someone working for them. It wasn't the actual electric company. They spent the whole day. They tarred it over. I walked the whole thing from a pole to the property on the south end of the property. And it's an electric line, so I'm not sure what you were referring to. But our letter just pointed out that that's Falmouth land, the triangle there. And for the 67 years that I've lived there, I've cut through that path. And it's a safe pathway for all the children in the neighborhood to access the beach. And what we're all worried about is by giving permission to landscape that to this new owner, do they assume that they can do anything they want to that triangle? For example, blocking the path. They've made a new path into the path, which is fine. I don't think we oppose landscaping it. It's a mess. But I don't want them to feel that they have control of that piece of land. It belongs to the city. And this was a fight my mother investigated 50 years ago with lawyers that it's a protected right of way. I don't remember what the issue was 50 years ago when she investigated this, but it's constantly used. It's a much safer way than going around the corner where there's traffic flying up Gosnell and Spencer Baird, and it's a blind corner. So I just would like the record to say that this landscaping is fine, but doesn't give them control. And in fact, they're outside their own plot line with that fence that was put up by Dr. Lerner about 40 years ago. It's not really anything historical. It's just a cement fence. But thank you for letting me present this.
Mr. Gellis, we did forward your comments to the board on August 9th.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Betsy.
So that Mark did when he presented, all that land has to, all that permission to do anything in that triangle has to go through the Board of Selectmen. They're planning to keep the pathway. They're going to connect with the pathway as you've seen. And they're going to do the planting that they said they were going to do. And they're going to remove the split rail fence that's in the town property around it. But that's all a license with the town. So that's all they can do. They can't come and do whatever they want there. So that will be set in stone as much as anything is set in stone in this world.
Very succinct. All right, Jen, is there anything else in the public chat function?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Betsy?
I just want to make the comment that we did get that letter. It was sent on to us by the staff.
Thank
And
you.
I think there can be a condition to ensure that the the applicant does not plant the path that currently exists north-south between Spencer Baird and Gosnold without receiving the proper permission from both the Board of Selectmen and this commission.
Thank you. Melissa, I think I saw your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie. I'm now, after Mr. Gellis's comments about a trench being dug across Spencer Baird for electricity, I'd like to have somebody look into it to confirm that indeed that's supposed to be an electric hookup as opposed to what the applicant wants us to amend on their order of conditions, because the whole reason why we started this amendment was to do the underground, which I understand that I agree that underground is preferred, but I just, you know, if indeed they're going to do it underground across Spencer Baird, I think we need to know that, as opposed to coming in from Gosnold, from the pole on Gosnold that we were told that they were going to do.
I have pictures of it, but I don't know how to upload them to you.
Excuse me. Who's that?
Mr. Gellis was saying that he has pictures of the trench, but he is unable to upload them and show them to us. Mr. Gellis, if you could email them to the staff, we'll take them.
Right.
I mean, Eversource must have an engineering plan for that electric for that project. So, all right. Any other questions or comments? All right. What are you thinking?
I'll make a motion to close this hearing and take it under advisement. Gladfelter.
Patton, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close this hearing. Last call, Jen.
I just have one question. If the electrical is coming up from a different angle as the abutter, as the abutter has testified, don't we want to see that on a revised plan?
How do we know that it's really the electrical for
I
this?
don't
How do we
know.
know that they didn't just dig something up for some reason?
Betsy,
Something unrelated.
second. Mark, can you investigate that for us?
I can look into it. Like I said, I think I can share the plan again. There is a pole where the existing utility came overhead. If that is the pole where it is now going to come underground, it's less intensive. It's less, to
Tell you what, Mark, if you could investigate that for us, and if it is from that pole, could you put in a revised plan to us so that we have it correctly on our plan?
yes, definitely we can provide
I mean,
a revised plan.
we can make a finding, we can condition it, and if it does turn out that the trench is from that pole on Spencer Baird, we will request a revised plan from you showing us exactly where the electrical is coming into that site.
Yes, we
Does
can
that
provide
seem
that.
fair?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So does the motion and second stand?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Melissa?
I'm just wanted to say I'm not comfortable closing this quite yet, but okay. Yeah, if that's the way it's gonna go.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Last call. Said that 3 calls ago, but hey. All right, we're voting. This is to close the hearing. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Melissa?
Fartog, no.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
How does that work, Jen?
That's
think
the
I've seen
majority of the
All right. Okay.
Yeah. You have a majority.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, request to extend an existing order of conditions. Seascape Association, Inc., Waterside Drive B, Beach, and Site 103, North Falmouth, Mass. DEP number 25-4554 requesting a 3-year extension.
This is an
Jen?
annual beach maintenance maintenance project they just did 3 years ago, so I have no problem extending it for 3 years.
Okay.
After that, we'll reevaluate.
Any questions or comments? All right, what do you
So
think?
moved
All right,
for 3-year
Bird, second.
extension.
we have a motion and a second to grant the extension of 3 years. Melissa?
So is this just to renourish once every 3
It's-
years, or is this once every year? For 3 years?
Oh, hang on. 90 cubic yards of sand.
Every
3
year?
3 cubic yard, 30 cubic yards a year. Not very much.
30
On B
cubic-
Beach, so this
okay,
is the
30
one all the
cubic
way
yards a
out
year.
on the end of Seascape.
If they want to extend it, they come back again.
Correct.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, thanks. No more
Anything
questions.
else? Anything? All right, what are you thinking? We have a
Can we-
sorry, we have a
yeah, we
motion
have
and
a
a
motion.
second. Yep, we have a motion and a second to grant an extension of 3 years. And just making sure, any questions or comments? All right, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
It's that one.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
Believe I'm on the panel, am I?
yes, you
Yeah,
are.
it's just,
Yeah, it's an extension, Kevin. You're on it.
Oh, aye. Thank you.
Melissa,
So this, yeah, so this is at Fiddler's Cove, right? Or across from it? That's Seascape.
Correct.
Okay, aye. Fred Dog, aye.
Steve,
Pat and I,
it is unanimous. We have granted a 3-year extension. Next up are vote orders of conditions. First up, Brian P. Halligan, 0 Oyster Pond Road, Falmouth, Mass.
All right, I'm gonna have to have Alyssa take this over because I was not at the last hearing.
Oh, that's right.
Thank you. So this hearing was to remove those 2 colonies of Phragmites from town property. The abutting neighbor has put in the application because they have so far had a very successful removal of their Phragmites and would like to extend this onto the remaining town property in the area. I don't believe we spoke about any types of special conditions, other than DFW did send us some information that we can add to our order of conditions, maintaining the limit of work, sending us all reports, and conducting a survey to see if that rare plant is in the area.
Correct. We need to incorporate natural heritage's comments in order for the project not to be a prohibitive take. So they have to follow natural heritage's conditions, and those conditions have to be written into your order of conditions verbatim.
right. So Jen, what you missed was that the person who presented it thinks that the project that they did on the private property that now has just seed coming up from the seed bank, that some of that rare plant is he's not positive, but he's pretty sure that some of that rare plant has come up there.
Okay.
Yeah, which is exciting,
Salt
right?
Pond Pettywort.
Yep. Nope, that's fine, but they're gonna need like a rare
Right.
species botanist to go out and
Right, he knows that.
Yeah.
They know that.
Yeah.
Right.
The botanist is probably my botany professor. He's the one that does the rare plant surveys.
The rare
around
plants,
here.
that's neat.
Yeah, it is neat.
He and Mark must be friends. So I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Any more questions or comments? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Melissa,
Right, guy.
Steve,
Pat and I, and thank you again to the host.
all right. Next up, Town of Falmouth DPW, adjacent to 235 and 236 Sipawicet Road, Falmouth, Mass. Ms. Bergeron.
Thank you. This is the culvert replacement. The one that's currently there is partially collapsed. So this is a project to install a new culvert. It'll be roughly at the same elevation. They're going to repair the riprap. Pretty straightforward. I don't believe we had any comments.
All right. Any questions or comments? Melissa?
Thanks, Jimmy. Yeah, at one point, when the owner's son spoke, he mentioned something about some work being done on the brook that goes down there, and he seemed to think that the town had done it and that had affected the movement of the brook. And I'm wondering if perhaps he's talking about the neighboring property there on Upland that's been cleared out. I'm hoping that that conservation will look at that, because there's been a lot of activity nearby, and maybe can mitigate a little more the brook hinderness that's been happening there.
So Jen, what he said was that along Upland, which is up above where the septic system bed was put in, along that stretch, the drainage had changed because there had been some work along the road, and he thought that that might have diverted more water into the wetland than had been there. Even, I mean, he acknowledges that it's always been a problem, but he thinks there's more water to deal with now than there used to be.
From what septic system?
No. Remember the septic system? Remember the little house, and there's a septic system, the beds had to be put in a slope that goes up to Upland. Yeah,
Yes.
so it was
a
the
Jeff
son.
Ryder project. It was a BSS design project.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was the son of the woman who owns that house, who's 97 now, who's
Okay,
thrilled
I
that
know exactly where you're
who's
talking
thrilled
about.
that this is going to be fixed. She hopes the work is done while she's still alive.
Don't.
Okay.
But Upland Road, there's
Yeah.
been work on Upland Road, and she thinks more water might be going into that wetland than had gone in previous. He does.
Okay, well,
So you might ask Jim to go
yeah,
up there.
well,
And take a look.
I'll where's my little list? I'll have Joe check it out.
Yeah, you might want to drive by, because the corner of Upland Road across the street is completely denuded, and there's just sort of some riprap around the corner of the road.
Okay.
Oh yeah, the corner of Upland and Sipawicet. And so I'm wondering, because when I was standing there, I'd parked on Upland to go to look at the culvert. I could actually hear water flowing somewhere, but
Okay.
I couldn't see it. So I'm
All right,
wondering if
I'll have Jim check
part
it
of the
out.
problem. Thanks. Yeah.
All right, anything else?
No, that's
Do we
All
need a motion,
or
I do.
Jamie? Okay,
Yes.
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Melissa,
right, guy.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, Falmouth Resort Owner LLC, 350 Quaker Road, Falmouth, Mass. And I have the quorum excludes Maury, but she's not here, and Melissa.
Yep. All right, so this is the Seacrest. The presentation was to construct 4 new cottage-style buildings. The existing impervious area in that section of the property would be removed and grass would be added around the back of these buildings. We had many discussions about the drainage in the area, so we looped in Scott Schluter from DPW, and he and Tim Santos had many long conversations about this project, and it seems that Scott's concerns were answered. They're also doing a little bit of minor work on one of the other units. Tim was able to revise the restoration area. The previous area proposed had actually grown back in with invasives, but we did find an area of clearing, which will be restored. And they agreed to put in a fence to prevent any more encroachment into the buffer as that was sort of inching its way. It looks like he answered all of our concerns about plan technicalities. I don't have anything written down of previous concerns or special conditions.
They had to go to planning and zoning for
Yes.
permits, and I understand it was approved on both counts.
Correct.
That's good. Okay. All right. Anybody have anything?
I'll make
No.
a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird
It
second.
was a complete a good revision that came back to us.
Yeah. All right. So we have a motion and multiple seconds to issue an order of conditions. Anything else? All right. We're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous with this quorum. We have issued an order of conditions. All right, next up, Jill Gansey, trustee, Jill C. Gansey Revocable Trust, 23 Nauset Avenue East, North Falmouth, Mass. Jen?
I can take this one.
Ms. Bergeron, I'm sorry.
That's
And
okay.
again, the
Thank you.
quorum excludes Melissa.
Yes. So this is the project nearly across the street from the Seacrest. It's a Bracken project. What the folks would like to do is reconstruct in the back of the dwelling, take off the existing deck, add a screened porch, staircase deck combination, make a covered entry, and add the corresponding mitigation. Bracken addressed our comments at the last hearing, relocating the mitigation from a naturally vegetated area that was cleared into existing lawn area. The plank walkway into the salt marsh has been removed. The area will likely just revegetate naturally. The kayak rack has been removed and the debris piles will be removed. I also don't think we had any initial concerns.
All right. Anybody have anything? I don't have any
Yeah,
notes
no.
that we were looking for anything particular, so.
We had no concerns because they came back and addressed everything that we had
Right.
concerns with initially.
All right, what are you thinking?
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as extensively discussed.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous with this quorum. We have issued an order of conditions. And that's all we have, folks. But a last note, there's no meeting next week. So I hope everyone has a great Labor Day weekend, but stay safe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Jamie.
On that note, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Patton, second.
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye.
O'Brien, aye.
Hi.
And Pat and I.
Woo. Happy first day of school, Steve.